what's up guys, it's Duelist'S, and today we're doing a Pendulum.
Alright everyone, so I'm in the car here. I'm going to play a video while I'm driving here and listen to it. It's going to be Duelist'S' newest Pendulum Magician deck profile. I want to see what he's playing, any comments he has, and then if I see anything that, you know, I overly disagree with or overly agree with, whatever, I might make some comments. But here you go. Hope you guys enjoy.
Pendulum Magician deck profile. So I'm really excited that you guys suggested me by one of my patrons, AWOL. And this deck is absolutely incredible now with Astrograph back at 1. Because Pendulum best deck. Let's go!
Oh, shut up.
Without further ado, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in the description of a single video, getting a signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test hands. And definitely give AWOL some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing a single copy of Astrograph Sorcerer. I'm so glad that this card is finally back at 1. It has a great monster effect that if a card you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, then you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can choose a monster in your graveyard, extra deck, or that's banished, that was destroyed this turn, and add a monster with the same name from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to just be able to special summon this card out and then search literally anything that just got destroyed, which is just an amazing effect. We then play 3 copies of Chronograph Sorcerer. I'm playing 3 copies of Chronograph in the deck because it's still a really good card, because it has the ability that a card you control, if its cards you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can instantly special summon this card from your hand, and then you can special summon another monster from your hand as well, which is a really good effect if you have any of your other cards that you want on the field with this card. It's super helpful for link plays, and plus, being a level 6, it's also very easy to just summon this card to your side of the field and use it with your Harmonizing to go directly into a copy of Barrier. We then play just a single copy of Time Gazer Magician. It combos very well with the Pendulum effect of Chronograph. Being able to destroy itself to be able to put the copy of Time Gazer on the field is just really good. We play 3 copies of Double Iris Magician. Double Iris Magician is a really good card for this deck. Its Pendulum effect is that you can once per turn target a dark spellcaster type monster that you control and apply this effect to it and then destroy this card. That basically, when that monster battles another monster, it does double damage, which is really good.
Ooh,
but the monster effect is just absolutely crazy. That if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you get to add a Pentagraph card from your deck to your hand, which we have 2 incredibly awesome Pentagraph cards in this deck. We then play 2 copies of the Purple Magician. Purple Magician is a really good 2-of in this build. I did consider cutting the copy of Time Gazer for a 3rd copy of it, so you can do that if you want to. But this card has a really good effect that you get to once per turn, if you control a dark spellcaster type monster before damage calculation, you can activate this effect. That monster gains 1200 attack and then destroy this card. And then its monster effect is if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you get to target a face-up card on the field and destroy it, which is a really good effect. We then play 3 copies of Harmonizing Magician. You always want to see Harmonizing Magician or search it in the deck, because when this card is Pendulum summoned to your side of the field, you get to special summon an additional Magician Pendulum monster from the deck, which is just really good just to get an additional monster on the field, because it sets up your copies of Needle Fiber. It also is just a really good card to see in your opening hand, because you know you're going to have all sorts of crazy plays with it. We then play 3 copies of Wisdom Eye Magician. Wisdom Eye Magician basically becomes any of your other cards that you need that are Pendulum Magicians, because it has the ability to, if you have a Magician or a Perform Power card in your other Pendulum zone, you can destroy this card, and if you do, place a Magician Pendulum monster from your deck in your Pendulum zone. So basically, you destroy this, put it in the extra deck, and then set the exact scales that you need to be able to Pendulum summon him back out of the extra deck. That is really good with just basically setting it up with this card. I really love that effect to basically just have your Wisdom Eye to be exactly what you need it when you want to have it. We then play 3 copies of Oath Dragon Magician. This card is a great card in the deck as well as a 3-of, because if you have a Magician card in your other Pendulum zone, you can add a face-up Magician or Odd Eyes Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. This card is a great 3-of, because once you put your copy of Harmonizing into the extra deck, you can't Pendulum summon it back out, so you can just add it back to hand with your Oath Dragon, so you can go in for more plays. I love that effect, and its monster effect is if this card is normal or special summon, you can target a Magician Pendulum monster or an Odd Eyes monster in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. So if you discard it to the graveyard or detach it as a material, you can just just get that card back with your copy of Oath Dragon. We then play 3 copies of Perform Pal Skullcrabat Joker, the best normal summon in this deck. When this card is normal summoned, you get to add a Perform Pal, or you can add a Perform Pal monster, Magician Pendulum monster, or an Odd Eyes monster from your deck to your hand. This card is incredibly good and the best normal summon in the entire deck. We then play 2 copies of Celestial Magician. Perform Pal Celestial Magician is one of the other cards that I did consider bumping up to 3 instead of the copy of the Time Gazer Magician. So that is an option for you guys if you want to play a 3rd copy of it. But what it does is when exactly one face-up Fusion Synchro or XZ card that you control that was special summoned from the extra deck is destroyed by battle or my opponent's card effect, you can special summon that destroyed monster, then destroy this card. You can only use its effect once per turn. It also has a really interesting monster effect that during your main phase, the turn this card was normal or special summon, you can apply the following effects based on the other monsters that you currently control. If you control a fusion, this card can attack directly. If you control a synchro, your opponent cannot activate monster effects. If you control an XZ, this card's attack becomes double. And then if you control a pendulum monster, then during the end phase, you can add a pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. This card is really good. I really did consider playing a 3rd copy of this over the Time Gazer, but it is an option for you guys. We then play 3 copies of Perform Pal Pendulum Sorcerer. Pendulum Sorcerer is a great searcher because this card is just really good because it has the ability that basically its monster effect is if this card is special summon, you get to target up to 2 cards that you control and destroy them. And if you do, you add a Perform Pal monster with different names from your deck to your hand to the amount of cards you destroyed. So basically you can search both of these cards from the deck, which is really good if you Pendulum summon out your copy of Pendulum Sorcerer. We then play just a single copy of Dragon Pit Magician. I play a single copy of this card because it lets you once per turn, if you have a Magician card in your other Pendulum zone, you can destroy a Pendulum monster and then target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it, which comes in very handy to out cards like skill.
Kids can't be kids when their clothes don't fit right, and the
Come on. I'm just trying to skip it.
Kids can't be kids when their clothes don't fit right, and the same goes for their nighttime underwear. That's why Goodnights has new large and extra large sizes to comfortably fit older kids the way they should. Goodnights, now in more sizes for a comfy
Dude, let me skip. Really?
fit.
Scrubs.
Skill drain and stuff like that. So this card is a very good one up in here. We play a single copy of Luster Pendulum, which Luster Pendulum helps out a lot in this deck because what this card does is it lets you once per turn, if you have a card in your other Pendulum zone, you can destroy that card, and if you do, add a card from your deck to your hand with the same name as that card. So this card is really good, and it also helps you go for a really good Synchro monster in the extra deck. So, that's it for the Pendulum monsters. Let's get into the regular monsters that we're playing this deck, because that's a lot of Pendulum monsters, but it's a Pendulum deck. So, for the other monsters we're playing 2 copies of Tuning Magician. Tuning Magician is here because you're going to be summoning this card off your copy of your Needle Fiber. So this card is extremely important for the deck, and it can constantly special summon itself, because you special summon off the Needle Fiber, then you can special summon it back if you have 2 Magician cards in your Pendulum zone, but it does banish itself, which is a little bit of a downside because it does have the ability, if you have 2 more Magician cards in your Pendulum zone, while this card's in the hand or the grave, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field, and if you do special summon this card, then your opponent gains 400 and you take 400, which is not that big of a deal because basically you're just taking 400 damage, but it's a really good card to help you extend your plays. We then play a single copy of Artifact Scythe. This card will completely shut your opponent down and is really easy to put on the field with your Artifact Dagda, because when this card is special summoned during your opponent's turn, your opponent can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, and it can also go into a Baron de Fleur with your copy of your TG Wonder Magician. We then play a single copy of Destrudo. Destrudo is basically here because you can use it for link summonings to go into your copy of Needle Fiber, because if this card is in your hand or grave, you may have your life points and then target 1 level 6 or lower monster that you control and special summon this card. And if you do, this card's level is reduced by that monster that you targeted, and also place card on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field. This card is really good because you can use it really quickly to summon to your side of the field and then immediately go for the copy of Needle Fiber. It's a really good card in this deck. So, that's it for the other monsters that we're playing. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of the Star Pendulum Graph. This card is so good as a one-of in here because it has the ability that your opponent can target spellcaster monsters that you control with spell effects or card effects that are spells, and if a face-up Magician Pendulum monster leaves the field, then you get to add a Magician Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. We then play just 2 copies of Pendulum Call. This is a really important card for the deck because you have to keep in mind that some of your cards will destroy themselves. Like your copies of your Wisdom Eye Magician will destroy itself, but this card prevents you from destroying your Pendulum monsters. So keep that in mind as you play the Pendulum Call. It has also the ability to discard a card and then add 2 Magician Pendulum monsters with different names from your deck to your hand. But then it has the ability that also, until the end of the opponent's next turn after this card resolves, Magician cards in your Pendulum zones cannot be destroyed by card effects. You can only activate 1 Pendulum Call per turn, and you can't activate this card if you have a Magician, or if you activated a Magician monster's effect, which is a really cool effect, but at the same time, it does protect your Pendulum scales, but it kind of like shuts down your copy of Wisdom Eye. We then play 3 copies of Duelist'S Alliance. Duelist'S Alliance is really good because this card has the ability that if there is a card in your Pendulum zone, you can add a Pendulum monster or a Pendulum spell or trap from your deck to your hand. This searches the exact card that you need when you need it. It can search Pendulum Call if you need it, which is really, really helpful, and it's just such a good card to be able to use in this deck as a 3-up. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just playing a single trap, which is a single copy of Time Pendulum Graph. This card is a really good card because it has the ability that your opponent cannot target spellcaster monsters that you control with trap effects or effects, and then once per turn, or it also has the ability you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn, and then you can target 1 Magician Pendulum monster card in your monster zone or Pendulum zone and 1 card your opponent controls and destroy them. Then if this card did not destroy 2 cards, you can send a card on the field to the graveyard, which is an extremely powerful effect. So that's it for the traps and the main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Time Star Magician. I just play a single copy of this card because it's a great card to search out other cards. It has the ability that you get to once per turn to detach an XZ from this card to add 1 Dark Spellcaster type monster from your deck to graveyard or face it from your extra deck. To your hand, and then once per turn, if a Pendulum monster card in your monster zone or Pendulum zone would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can send a spellcaster type monster from your deck to the graveyard instead, which is pretty good. We then play a single copy of Supreme King Dragon Dark Rebellion. This card is just really good to be able to just go in for games, so I play it as a one-of in here. The only thing to keep in mind about this card is that you have to use 2 Dark Pendulum monsters to summon it, so keep that in mind. You can't use cards like your Pendulum Sorcerer to summon it because it's an Earth, so do keep that in mind as you play this card. 1 copy of Tornado Dragon because this card pops spells or traps. Vaguska because it shuts down the field, which is really, really good. 1 copy of Double A Zeus because sometimes you do need to board wipe in this deck, so this card comes in very, very handy. 1 copy of Access Code Talker because this card just is really good in the deck to be able to get multiple pops on the field into a 5300 attack point monster, so I love this card as a one-of in here. You can change it out for Borreload if you want to, but I totally recommend Access Code if you can get one because this card just gives you all those pops, but it's not the end-all be-all of the deck. We then play a single copy of Appaloosa because this card is great for its arrows and it gives us monster negates. Now this card is a card I highly would recommend in this deck because playing this card just gives you multiple monster negates in combo with Baron de Fleur, which you guys will see in the test hands, will give you upwards of like 5 negates, which is really, really good. We then play a single copy of Selene. Selene is good because this card basically lets you get, depending on the amount of spell cards that you have in the graveyard and on the field, it will put spell counters on this card. You can remove 3 and then special summon a spellcaster, which is really good. Special summon a spellcaster from the hand or the grave and defense switch to a zone it points to, which is really good to help extend your plays even further. This card basically turns into Access Code Talker very, very easily, and it's just a super good card. We then play a single copy of Artifact Dagda so we can get into Scythe. 1 copy of Needle Fiber because you're going to make this card with Harmonizing Magician and then summon out Tuning Magician, and it activates the effect of Dagda because when a card effect is activated you can set the Scythe. 1 copy of Artemis. Artemis is good in this deck because Artemis basically just gives you another Link monster and gets one of your Pendulum monsters off the field if you need it, and helps you climb into the Access Code Talker with an additional card in the grave that you can banish, which is really good. 1 copy of Baron de Fleur. This card is super good in this deck and super easy to make as well because basically all you have to do to make this card is go go in with Scythe and Wonder Magician. We play a single copy of Borreload Savage Dragon because you can equip any of your Link monsters to this card as a equip card basically, and it will get Boral counters on it and give you negations equal to the Link rating. One copy of the True Draco Slayer. This card is really good, and the reason we're playing the Draco Slayer in the main deck, it lets you once per turn target a Pendulum monster on the field or one card in the Pendulum zone, destroy it, and if you do, shuffle one card on the field into the deck. It doesn't target, so you can just get rid of anything that you don't want to deal with. And then finally, a single copy of TG Wonder Magician. You might be looking at this card and going, hey, how do you summon that card? Well, you actually summon it off the copy of Crystal Needle Fiber's effect to banish itself, special summon this from the X deck, and then use this plus Scythe to go Baron, which is really good because this can actually synchro summon during your opponent's turn as a quick effect. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play with.